March 21, 1945. The early morning mist clings to the Rhine River like a shroud. You can almost hear the water's surface ripple, indifferent to the storm about to break above it. German sentries peer nervously across the river, binoculars pressed to their eyes, scanning for what they assume is just another probing attack. Fog drifts in from the west, masking tanks, trucks, and the faint rumble of engines. Inside the command bunker near Koblenz, General Hans von Salmuth sifts through intelligence reports with a furrowed brow. The Americans will not attempt a full crossing here for weeks, one officer assures him. But Salmuth's gut tightens. Something in the reports doesn't add up. Troop movements, radio chatter, the sudden quiet from aerial reconnaissance, subtle hints he can't yet place. Meanwhile, on the western bank, Third Army soldiers crouch in shallow trenches. Cold mud seeps through boots, hands stiffen on rifles, eyes scanning the foggy horizon. Among them, Lieutenant Colonel John Reynolds checks his compass and whispers to his men, "Remember, we move fast. No hesitation, no mercy." You feel the tension, the pause before a predator strikes. Suddenly, a distant roar slices through the mist. Not artillery, not planes, tanks. Heavy American armor rolling forward, faster than anyone predicted. The ground trembles beneath the advance, and soldiers gripping their rifles know, instinctively, that the quiet is over. Even as the first Sherman tanks emerge from the fog, German forward posts hesitate. Panic simmers. Orders clash with reality. Salmuth slams a fist on the map table, murmuring, "They're moving faster than they should be." And then it hits. This is no ordinary push. Patton's Third Army isn't just crossing the Rhine, they're racing across it. Every bridgehead, every ford, every shallow section becomes a conduit for shock. German defenses, meticulously plotted and fortified for weeks, suddenly seem fragile, too fragile. And in Berlin, high command feels it first as disbelief. Hitler's generals relay the reports. The Führer sits in his study, eyes narrowing at the telegrams. Third Army, already across, moving rapidly, Koblenz and Mainz in danger. His staff fumbles with updates. No one expected speed like this. Could Patton really outpace their most prepared defensive lines? You can almost smell the fear, metal, smoke, and mud mixing with panic. And yet the Americans press on, relentless. Every soldier, every Sherman, every half-track contributes to a growing sense that the Rhine isn't a barrier anymore. It's a starting line. But even as the German lines begin to crumble, Patton himself pushes further forward, eyes sharp, voice booming over the comms. "Keep moving. The faster we go, the fewer they can rally." The Rhine may have been a fortress in maps and planning, but on this foggy March morning, it's a highway for shock, disbelief, and a reckoning the Nazis never imagined. The first bridge has been secured, and yet the real chaos is just beginning. By midday, the fog begins to lift, revealing a scene German commanders could barely comprehend. Sherman tanks, their steel tracks crunching over frozen mud, thunder across the makeshift crossings. Infantry follow, rifles slung, eyes darting for snipers, machine gun nests, anything that could halt them, but the defenses are eerily silent. You can almost feel the German fear, taut and invisible, spreading like wildfire down the Rhine's eastern bank. Officers like General Hans von Salmuth bark frantic orders, but the Third Army moves too fast, striking before reinforcements can arrive. Artillery opens sporadically, shells screaming overhead, but the Americans adapt, shifting positions, exploiting every gap. Colonel Creighton Abrams radios his units from the lead. "No pauses. Every ford, every bridge, keep pushing forward. Make them react, not us." And they do. German troops scramble, retreat, collapse. Vehicles are abandoned. Guns are left unmanned. The careful, layered defenses designed to slow any Allied advance disintegrate under the speed of Patton's onslaught. On the ground, soldiers experience the surreal mix of triumph and chaos. Mud and smoke coat faces. The sound of engines, men shouting, and distant explosions merges into a single, relentless drumbeat. For the Americans, it's an adrenaline rush. For the Germans, a nightmare unfolding in real time. Patton himself rides at the front, mounted on a jeep, binoculars in hand. His voice cuts through the comms like a whip. No hesitations. Do not give them a chance to regroup. Keep the pressure, always the pressure. In Koblenz, Salmuth watches helplessly as his troops falter. Communication lines are jammed with reports of lost positions, overrun checkpoints, and bridges in American hands. Panic spreads among the staff. They're everywhere, faster than any scenario predicted. Desperate orders are sent, but there's no time to coordinate. The Rhine, once thought impenetrable, has become a corridor of destruction. Even Hitler hears the news. The reports arrive fragmented, almost unbelievable. Third Army has crossed the Rhine, moving southwest. Mainz may fall, entire defensive lines at risk. His usual rage is tinged with disbelief. Could a single general really defy the calculations of his entire intelligence network? And yet, Patton's army doesn't slow. Every crossing secured is immediately reinforced. Engineers lay temporary bridges in record time, allowing armored divisions to surge deeper into German territory. Trucks loaded with supplies thunder across the river, supporting the relentless advance. By nightfall, the Germans realize the unimaginable. The Third Army has pierced what was supposed to be the ultimate barrier. Entire towns fall before the defenders can mount a cohesive response. And in the dim light, Patton looks over his maps, eyes gleaming, already planning the next leap forward. The Rhine wasn't just crossed, it was shattered. But even as the Third Army celebrates small victories, a larger storm brews. German command isn't just stunned, they're plotting a desperate counter. And Patton's next moves will decide whether this chaos becomes total annihilation or a temporary setback for the Allies. March 22, 1945. The morning sun catches on shattered rooftops and smoke rising from abandoned villages along the Rhine's eastern banks. German troops stumble through mud and rubble, their morale evaporating faster than the morning mist. Orders are shouted, messengers sprint, but the Third Army moves too fast, too unpredictably. You can almost see the panic in their eyes. Every American tank that appears on the horizon forces another defensive position to crumble. The once proud Wehrmacht, which had held cities, rivers, and fortresses for years, is now fractured and disoriented. Major Karl Becker, a regimental commander near Mainz, watches his radio crackle with desperate calls from neighboring units. Hold, they're everywhere. His hands tremble on the map, realizing they are no longer fighting an army, they're fighting momentum. Patton doesn't wait. Infantry, mechanized units, and armored divisions push forward in unison. Sherman tanks barrel through barricades, half-tracks ferry supplies and reinforcements, artillery hammers retreating German positions. Engineers repair destroyed bridges under fire, allowing the Third Army to maintain an unbroken chain of advance. You can almost feel the rhythm, a relentless beat of American steel and determination, hammering against German nerves. By midday, entire German formations have disintegrated. The Rhine, which should have been a formidable defensive line, has become a stage for chaos. Von Salmuth tries to regroup his forces, shouting orders over the radio, counterattack, push them back. But the messages come too late. Units are scattered, their cohesion destroyed by Patton's rapid crossings. Soldiers surrender in droves, vehicles are abandoned, artillery crews flee their positions. In Berlin, Hitler's disbelief turns to rage. Reports are fragmented, contradictory, impossible to reconcile. How can one general move so fast? He demands. Staff officers stumble over their words, fearing not just the speed but the audacity of Patton's tactics. German intelligence had predicted weeks, maybe months of planning before the Allies could breach the Rhine, and in a single day those predictions are annihilated. Patton's headquarters is a stark contrast. Maps are dotted with red markers showing secured crossings, advancing units, and liberated towns. Every officer and soldier understands the stakes, and every movement is precise, fluid, unstoppable. Patton himself leans over a map, pointing to Mainz. Reinforce here, keep moving. They won't have time to regroup. His voice carries authority, urgency, and that unmistakable hunger for momentum. By nightfall, the Third Army has reached the outskirts of key cities like Koblenz and Mainz. German defenders retreat in disarray, their defensive lines shredded. Communication has broken down entirely. Panic has spread to every echelon of command. And yet, amid this chaos, Patton is already thinking 2 steps ahead. The Americans have done what no one believed possible. They've transformed the Rhine from an obstacle into a corridor for unstoppable advance. But the true test isn't just the speed of the crossing. It's whether the Germans can recover before Patton's Third Army reaches the heart of the Reich itself. And in the distance, a new threat emerges. Desperate German countermeasures, hurried reinforcements, and artillery positions waiting to strike back at the advancing Americans. March 23, 1945. Berlin. Hitler sits in his dimly lit study, the walls lined with maps and reports. A thick tension hangs in the air, the kind that makes every officer in the room shift uneasily. Telegram after telegram arrives, each one worse than the last. Third Army has taken Koblenz. Mainz threatened, defensive lines collapsing. The words blur together, but the meaning is undeniable. You can almost feel the disbelief pressing down on him. For years, the Rhine had been considered Germany's final western bastion. Weeks, maybe months of planning went into fortifying it. And now, Patton's forces have turned it into a highway for armored divisions, infantry, and engineers, leaving German commanders scrambling for solutions that don't exist. High Command convenes a crisis meeting. Salmuth, pale and exhausted, tries to articulate the impossible. They crossed faster than intelligence predicted. We cannot hold, we can barely communicate. Hitler's face tightens. The meticulous calculations of his generals, the intricate network of defenses, all shattered in a matter of days. He slams a fist on the table. This cannot be happening. Not here. Not now. Meanwhile, on the front lines, Patton's men move with relentless precision. Sherman tanks roll past destroyed checkpoints, half-tracks ferry supplies, engineers repair bridges in real time. Every American unit that crosses the Rhine adds to the sense of inevitability. The Wehrmacht is being outpaced, outmaneuvered, and outthought. In Koblenz and Mainz, German soldiers surrender in increasing numbers. You can almost hear the disbelief in their voices, the desperation in their eyes. They trained for months, fortified every street, every bridge, every corner, yet here comes Patton, turning calculations into chaos. Even General von Salmuth, a veteran of countless campaigns, finds himself frozen at times, unsure where to commit reserves. Every choice is too late, every order delayed. And as the day ends, the realization hits hard. This is more than a tactical victory. It's psychological warfare on a scale the Nazis never anticipated. Patton himself watches the horizon, already thinking ahead. "We don't stop at the Rhine," he tells his aides. "Momentum is everything. Keep pressing. Don't give them time to breathe." The words echo with authority and inevitability. And in Berlin, the ripple of shock spreads outward. Staff officers whisper in corridors. Hitler paces frantically. Generals argue in vain. The Rhine, once thought invincible, is now a symbol of German miscalculation and Patton's audacity. But even as disbelief grips the German command, there's one unsettling truth lurking. Patton's army is only halfway to its objective. The next moves will either crush resistance completely or meet the desperate fury of a cornered foe. March 24, 1945. The morning sun rises over shattered towns along the Rhine, casting long shadows across streets littered with abandoned vehicles and debris. You can almost hear the echo of hurried boots on cobblestones, the rumble of engines, the constant clatter of artillery in the distance. Patton's Third Army is already moving, a relentless tide of armor and infantry racing toward Mainz and beyond. Sherman tanks roar through open fields, their crews scanning the horizon for any sign of resistance. Half-tracks ferry fresh supplies and ammunition, keeping the advance unbroken. Engineers construct temporary bridges in hours where planners predicted days. Every movement is calculated, precise, yet fast enough to feel chaotic to anyone trying to stop it. German defenders are scattered, confused, and exhausted. Communications have broken down entirely. Salmuth's remaining units attempt desperate counterattacks, but American artillery and air support crush them before they can regroup. You can almost feel the hopelessness that grips every German soldier as they watch the relentless Americans sweep forward. Patton rides in his jeep at the front, eyes scanning the horizon, radio crackling with reports from advancing units. "Don't slow down," he barks. "Keep them off balance. We move fast or we risk giving them hope." His strategy is clear: shock, speed, and constant pressure. Momentum is the weapon, and he wields it with terrifying efficiency. Meanwhile, Berlin receives reports that border on unbelievable. Mainz is under threat, bridges have fallen, and American forces are deeper in German territory than anyone expected. Hitler's disbelief becomes panic. The meticulous plans of the German High Command, the layers of defensive lines, the supposedly insurmountable Rhine, all undone in a matter of days. Every town the Third Army enters becomes a scene of swift occupation. German soldiers surrender en masse, artillery positions are abandoned, and civilians watch in awe and fear as the Americans sweep through. The rhythm of the advance is almost musical in its precision, a deadly choreography of speed and force. Patton's genius lies not just in brute force but in timing. He exploits gaps, anticipates reactions, and strikes before the enemy can even process what is happening. The Third Army is no longer just an army. It is a moving statement of inevitability. The Rhine has been crossed. Resistance is collapsing. And yet, the most audacious moves are still ahead. As night falls, scouts report movements on the far horizon. German reinforcements are trying to regroup, trying to halt the American tide. But Patton's momentum is already unstoppable. The Third Army has become the embodiment of speed and precision, leaving German command in disbelief and Hitler himself questioning every assumption he has ever made. And in the midst of all this, one question hangs in the air. Can anything stop Patton before he reaches the heart of the Reich, March 25, 1945? The Third Army moves like a force of nature, a storm rolling across the western edge of Germany. Sherman tanks churn through muddy roads, leaving deep tracks behind. Half-tracks and jeeps weave between villages, while infantry sweep ahead, clearing streets and securing bridges. You can almost smell the smoke from artillery, hear the metallic clang of abandoned vehicles, feel the tension of soldiers pushing their bodies and machines beyond exhaustion. German units are collapsing under the pressure. Major Becker tries to rally his scattered troops near the Moselle River, but chaos reigns. Orders conflict with reality. Ammunition is low, radios fail, and morale has evaporated. Soldiers surrender in droves, sometimes without firing a shot. One small town surrenders even before Patton's men arrive, villagers waving white flags as rumors of the unstoppable Americans spread like wildfire. Patton, riding at the front in his familiar jeep, is everywhere and nowhere. Binoculars in hand, he studies the map, issuing crisp, decisive commands over the radio. Reinforce the lead division. No breaks, keep the pressure. The faster we go, the less they can recover. His voice is calm but commanding, a living engine driving the momentum forward. Even the Luftwaffe is powerless. Few aircraft remain operational, and those that can fly are intercepted or forced to retreat by Allied air cover. German artillery attempts sporadic barrages, but every shell seems to land behind advancing troops, wasted against the tide of Patton's coordination. Berlin is in chaos. Hitler's generals bring fragmented reports, each more dire than the last. The Third Army, already in Mainz, units advancing toward Frankfurt, lines disintegrating. Hitler pounds the table, disbelief turning to fury. Every calculation, every contingency plan, every reinforced line along the Rhine has been obliterated in less than a week. By nightfall, the Third Army is deep inside previously secure German territory. German defenses are in ruins, supply lines are cut, entire regiments have vanished or surrendered. Yet Patton does not rest. The momentum has become its own weapon. His orders are relentless, precise, and unforgiving. And as the Americans push on, there is a realization among the Germans. This is no ordinary advance. This is a masterclass in operational audacity, a campaign designed to overwhelm, confuse, and utterly shatter any hope of organized resistance. But even as Patton's men celebrate small victories and destroyed roadblocks, a new threat looms: exhausted troops, stretched supply lines, and the potential for German desperation attacks. The Rhine has been crossed, the enemy shattered, but the question now is whether speed alone can carry them all the way to victory. The Third Army presses on into the night, engines roaring, rifles ready, and the faint glimmer of an audacious vision. The heart of Germany lies just ahead. March 26, 1945. Mainz lies just beyond the horizon. From a distance, you can see smoke curling from destroyed bridges and abandoned defensive positions, a testament to the chaos that has followed Patton's advance. German soldiers huddle in what little cover remains, whispering fears that once seemed impossible. They move too fast. They cannot be stopped. Inside the shattered command posts, General von Salmuth struggles to maintain order. Reports of surrendered towns, destroyed artillery, and missing units pile up faster than he can process. Every radio message, every telegram, confirms the same horrifying truth. Patton's Third Army is not just advancing, it is annihilating the very structure of German defense. You can almost feel the fear spreading from the front lines to Berlin. Officers hesitate before issuing orders, knowing that any decision might already be too late. Soldiers lose faith not because of defeat in battle alone, but because the Americans have made the impossible seem inevitable. Momentum, speed, and audacity have become weapons of psychological warfare. Patton, aware of this invisible effect, presses the advantage. He pushes armored divisions to the front, knowing that speed is more valuable than brute force. Every Sherman tank that crosses a destroyed bridge, every infantry unit that secures a town, reinforces the idea that resistance is futile. Even the Luftwaffe cannot intervene. Allied air cover dominates the skies, strafing retreating columns and supply lines. Meanwhile, Berlin trembles under the weight of the news. Hitler refuses to believe the reports at first, insisting that his generals are exaggerating. Yet as telegrams pile up, each more desperate than the last, even he cannot ignore the truth. The Rhine, once thought impenetrable, has been turned into a conduit of shock, disbelief, and impending doom. Back on the front lines, German soldiers begin to surrender without a fight. Small pockets of resistance are overwhelmed before they even form. The Third Army moves with the rhythm of inevitability, leaving devastation in its wake and fear in the hearts of those who remain. And as night falls over Mainz, Patton surveys the horizon, unshaken. His Third Army has not only crossed the Rhine, it has broken the spirit of those tasked with defending it. Yet, even with the Rhine behind him, one question lingers: how far can speed alone carry an army before exhaustion and desperation meet its advance? The answer lies just beyond the fog, waiting for the next morning's march. March 27, 1945. The Rhine is behind them, but its shadow lingers over both sides of the river. You can almost feel the silence in the abandoned towns, the eerie stillness that comes after chaos. Streets once lined with German defenses now carry only the tread of American boots and the occasional distant rumble of tanks moving onward. Patton's Third Army has shattered more than just physical defenses. They have broken the psychological backbone of German command. Reports from the front describe entire regiments surrendering without a fight, artillery batteries abandoned, and officers unable to organize even a token resistance. Soldiers whisper in awe. They came, and everything fell apart. In Berlin, disbelief has turned to desperation. Hitler's generals convene in hastily arranged meetings, their faces pale, voices tense. How could one army move so fast? How could one general anticipate and outmaneuver every defense we set? Every calculation, every plan for a Rhine-based counteroffensive is rendered meaningless. For the first time, the Reich's leadership confronts the terrifying reality. The war on the Western Front may already be lost. Patton, meanwhile, does not dwell on accolades or enemy panic. His focus is already on the next objective. He knows momentum is everything. A day of hesitation could allow the Germans to regroup. Sherman tanks roll toward Mainz, engineers prepare bridges over the Rhine tributaries, and infantry units sweep ahead, clearing pockets of resistance. The Third Army is a machine of unstoppable precision and speed. For German commanders like Salmuth, the shock is more than tactical, it is existential. Weeks of preparation, countless fortifications, and the most disciplined units Germany could muster have been undone in days. Intelligence reports that once reassured them now seem almost comical in their inaccuracy. Hitler himself struggles to reconcile the reality with his assumptions. And yet, amid the destruction and surrender, one thing is clear. Patton's crossing of the Rhine will be remembered not just as a military achievement, but as a psychological masterstroke. The Third Army has demonstrated that audacity, speed, and relentless pressure can collapse even the most formidable defenses. As night settles over the Rhine, soldiers in both armies rest uneasily. For the Americans, tomorrow brings the next step deeper into Germany. For the Germans, the horror is just beginning. One question lingers in every command post and frontline position. If Patton's Third Army could cross the Rhine in record time, what else are they capable of? The answer will reshape the Western Front forever.